Angie Smith, and she's running for Magnolia ISD position 1. And it's Thursday, March 14th, 2019. With us is James Byers, Larry Rogers, and momentarily Dale Fessenden, and shortly thereafter Bob Bagley. So Angie, as we discussed, why don't we start off, you can kick things off by giving up to a 5-minute opening, and then we'll jump in with the Q&A after that.
Thank you. My name is Angie Smith. I am a resident of Magnolia. I have lived in Magnolia for roughly coming up on 7 years. I have 3 teenagers. I have an 18-year-old son who is scheduled to graduate from Magnolia West this year. I have twin daughters, Madison and Clarissa, who are graduating next year in 2020. I am currently the president of the Magnolia West High School Band and Guard Booster. I'm also president of the Magnolia West Project Prom Committee. I have been president of Magnolia West Band Booster for, this is my 3rd year, and I have been elected to be vice president next year. We have grown that program drastically, and we have brought in more scholarship money than ever before. We are pushing out upwards of almost $13,000 that we're giving out to our kids in the future. Their major does not have to be music. It can be anything that they want. We just want to push our kids to further their education levels. I was a secretary on an HOA board a few years back. I did that for a little over a year. I was instrumental in helping that and working with the Mud Board, which I was also a member of the Mud Board for 2 years. And I was instrumental in growing our security, making sure that we had enough officers for our district, which was one of the largest districts in Harris County. Also instrumental in putting in additional playgrounds for our kids. With all the growth in the area that I lived in Cypress, we needed additional playgrounds. I am married. I've been married for, oh my goodness, 19 years at the end of this month. 19 years. My husband works out in the oil field. He was injured a little over a year ago in an 18-wheeler rollover. And so he's been working on physical therapy and trying to get back to going to work. I literally live at Magnolia West High School. The kids like to joke that I have a room in the back of the school. Very, very busy up there, talking to teachers, talking to administration. My family does come from Magnolia. My maiden name is Nichols. So my family did start Nichols Sawmill. So yeah, other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Grew up close to my family, grew up playing on horses and cows and helping my great-grandfather and playing with dairy cows and just old traditional style upbringing involved with family.
Okay, great. Thanks for the overview. So under the question, the general category, the question was, is the board seat you seek to be elected to effectively fulfill its role? You said you think that it is, but you also feel that there can be improvements made across the board. Can you give me some ideas as to what you would do to make those improvements? And I think one of them said you need more recognition of more groups across the schools, and explain what that means to you as well.
Definitely. I think the school district does a great job of recognizing students and organizations, but I think that we need to step more outside of our normal athletic groups. I know my daughter was in ACADAC first time as a junior. They actually got recognized at the last school board meeting. That's the first time I've heard of ACADAC being recognized. I think that some of our smaller programs that we have within the schools, I enjoy Student of the Month, but I think that it needs to be more than just one Student of the Month. You need to do it across the elementary, the intermediate, the junior high, and the high school. Traditionally, it's only been elementary and high school. So that's kind of more groups overall.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Under the question, what makes you qualified? You gave 3 reasons, and the third one was safety. And you closed on that topic with, I know what our teachers need and want to ensure safety for all our students. So since you know, please tell us what you know about what the teachers want and need.
Definitely. So one of the initiatives that one of our teachers has been pushing is the teacher carry. I firmly agree. We need to have teachers that are qualified to carry. Some of the ideas behind that are things such as ongoing training, more further background checks, I will say, more mental checks along those lines, if these teachers are wanting to truly carry. It can't be a one-time training, it has to be ongoing. That is one of the things that I like to see in the school. The other thing is that I know at Magnolia West, they do drills to where the kids go into each individual classroom. The teachers have keys to the doors. Well, that's great and dandy, but what if you have a substitute? You have to wait for an administrator to come around. That's a problem. My daughter is actually actively looking at door jams that have been recognized by Harris County police officers that would simply lock the door into place to where the door cannot be opened. That's just 2 of the things as far as security goes.
Okay. Those are good thoughts. Good thoughts. Okay. James.
Now, it looks like the budget, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I am, for the school district, at least the current year, is around 108 million, 109 million. And it looks like the expenditures are on the order of just under $10,000 a student. You feel that that amount of money is adequate, that the school has the money that it needs and that sort of thing, the facilities it needs?
I think that our students deserve better, which means we should see more spending per student and less on operations and less on maintenance. Those particular kids, it's great to grow one particular program, and the program that I'm thinking of is IB. It's great to grow it.
Is what program?
IB, the International Bachelorette Program,
Okay,
but not all colleges recognize it.
right.
So why do you keep putting money into something that isn't benefiting all of our kids? So yes, I think that more spending could go towards each student. But at the end of the day, we need to kind of bring in some of our spending on non-educational programs.
Now, of that 108 million, 63.5 million is spent specifically on instruction. So that only leaves about just under 50 million that's being spent on other things, but that includes the library, instructional leadership, school leadership, guidance, counseling, health services. The only really large one other than instruction is plant maintenance.
Exactly.
And that's only 12 or just under 13 million of the 108 million. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of fat there you could trim. If you cut it in half, that gives you another 5% of your budget for, I think, what you're saying you're wanting to spend it on. So where does that money come from?
Historically, other districts, larger districts, have involved the community. Bringing in community sponsorships, getting the community involved. Some of your larger companies like American Airlines is very involved with the school district in Dallas. They actually contribute money, but they also send in people who are going to train their kids to be airline mechanics, to do it the way American would want them to do it. And so then they turn around and hire them. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that we're out in Magnolia. We have Schlumberger not far. We have, they used to be called BJ Services. We have several oil companies right around the road from us, right down the road. Get them involved. Have them help us and prepare our kids for their futures.
is what you're saying? Oh, yeah, thank you, Bob. Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you were a MUD director, you said you helped grow security for the residents. Was that part of your MUD's responsibility?
It was.
That's unusual.
It was,
Yeah.
yes.
Can I ask what that entailed?
Yes, definitely. I was instrumental in hiring our additional officers, involving constables, sheriffs, just regular security officers, HPD, collecting their timesheets, having them check in with me, collecting their paychecks from the district, handing them their paychecks, checking in. They had to check in at least once a shift with me.
And that was Cypher?
That was like yes, sir.
Is there any bond debt lingering from past bonds?
Yes.
Do you know how many of these?
Last time I checked, just an interest alone was $84 million, just in interest. We have bonds that are scheduled to be paid out over the next 30 years.
Okay. How much does the superintendent make in your school district?
Last time I checked, he made a little under $200,000 a year, not including bonuses and travel expenses.
Can I chime in again?
Yes.
Were there bonuses?
Yes.
Do you know what those entailed?
I don't. I want to say that it was contingent upon how the district performed overall, is what I want to say.
Do you think that's a going rate for schools the size of, or ISDs the size of Magnolia?
No, I
Should
think
it
it's
be
higher. I think it's higher than what it should be.
Oh, really?
How many schools, facilities are in Magnolia School District?
We have 2 high schools, 2 intermediate, 2 junior high, and I believe it's 6 or 8 elementary schools, not including Alpha, DAAP, and now our event center.
Okay. Acronyms or what?
DAAP, that is the alternative school,
Okay.
instead of doing an in-school suspension.
Okay.
Let's see, there was a question here regarding security, and you said, okay, so it's under education. Imagine that. What level of school safety is appropriate? What ideas do you have to make our campus more safe? You said, I think our constables have done a great job. Does Magnolia Independent not have their own police force?
They do not.
Okay, good. Okay, and is it in the city limits, or is it under the jurisdiction only of the constable?
It's only under the jurisdiction of the constables.
Huh? And the sheriff's department, I would assume, or,
Sheriffs are not at the school. At each individual school. It's actually contracted out with the constable's office.
okay,
How many constables do you have at any one school at any time?
The high schools have 2, and I believe all the other schools have 1
Every day?
every day. And that's not including the additional security that school hires at Magnolia West and at Magnolia High. They have 3 additional security officers, but they don't carry, and they're not true officers.
do you think there's enough teachers out in the different schools that will participate in the concealed carry?
Absolutely.
program?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you in favor of that?
I am, very much so.
Okay. All right.
Okay, top 3 issues facing MISD in the next 5 years. Growth, educational programs, and teacher retention. Could you explain a little bit more about educational programs? What in particular are you thinking all the non-college career type of things, or could you elaborate on that a bit more?
I definitely can. So I'm going to go a little bit personal here. My son, who's graduating this year, his junior year walked into a welding program. He was taking it just as an extra course, He had an opening and he walked into the welding program and he was kind of lost, didn't know what he really wanted to do with his life. We'd, kind of run through a bunch of different things and he still in. We got to welding and the first time he touched the welder, he fell in love. He decided he wanted to become a welder. I knew, he knew, our whole family knew he was not a kid that was going to do well in a 2 or 4 year college. Plain and simple. Not all of our kids are prepared emotionally or mentally to go into a 4-year program. With the CTE programs is what they're called, they actually get the CTE, College Technical Education. Basically what it is they go in and they get hands-on experience. It gives them an idea of what they can do with their future, and they actually get to touch it and play with it. He's now in his 2nd year of welding. He's been accepted to 2 different welding schools and is going for an associate's degree. Without this particular program, we would still be wandering through senior year going, what are we going to do with our lives? I know that we have some programs such as cosmetology, we have auto tech, we need HVAC, we need plumbing, we need more trades. Trades are the way to go.
Okay. Good enough. And you said, for one example, do you have another?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Jenny?
Now, you're running against an incumbent, somebody's already on the board. Why would, for the voters that look at this, why would they vote for you instead of for her?
I actually have kids in the schools. I'm actually involved in programs, but my biggest thing is that I am seen in the community daily. There is not a face that I don't know, just even if it's just in passing. So I'm literally seen every single day at the high school, at the junior high, at some of our elementary schools, at the event center, very actively involved in the community, but more so, I actually have kids still in school.
What is your opponent not doing or doing incorrectly on the school board that you would do differently?
I think involvement is a big thing. Doesn't matter if I have a kid in the program or not. I go and support other sports. I support other programs, even without having children in it. I can tell you I know teachers who have never seen her, don't even know who she is.
With the involvement for sports, for instance, I don't know how involved you are, and I don't know all the makeup in the school district, but how many fields do you have that are AstroTurf?
2.
And how are they working out?
Great. They actually work really well.
So, how long are they lasting?
Magnolia West has only had theirs, I believe this was our 2nd season with AstroTurf. It's slated to last at least 10 years. So we shall see.
Do you know what it costs?
Too much, I know that.
So, in
Was
your
that in a bond, or was that?
That wasn't a bond.
in your opinion, is that a better way to go than having the natural turf and the watering and the maintenance and all of that?
I will say that it probably cuts down on maintenance costs because you're not having to constantly cut it and make sure it's all pretty and green. But at the same time, you have to have special machinery to clean it and maintain it.
Are other sports using this? I'm assuming this is just for the football field.
No, yes, this is just for the football field, but yes, other sports do use the
Okay,
football
but
field.
baseball doesn't use it.
No, they do not.
So the only thing that really uses it is soccer and probably in
And
football. Both of them are football.
And the band,
And the band does.
The band
uses it
does.
all the time.
Drill team.
And the drill team and the cheer.
Do they use it because, I mean, they can't be out there when they're practicing for football?
No, but we have a great working relationship with football and that with the band. So we actually practice when they're not practicing on it.
I have a little bit of time. Every school district seems to have a difference with their high school, their intermediate, their junior high. What is your makeup for intermediate? Do you know?
It's 5th and 6th grade.
5th and 6th. Okay. And so junior high is 7th, 8th?
7th and
And then high school is?
9 through 12.
Okay. Every district is different.
And that's new this year. That's new from
That's
Magnolia
new.
this year.
Having the intermediate is new. Is there a real reason for it? I mean, we're building more schools. Is it necessity? Is it a necessity to do so?
A real thought is yes, because your fifth graders kind of view it as they're stuck in a baby school, but they're not quite ready for the junior high. So putting them with fifth and sixth grade kind of helps them mature a little bit and kind of gets them used to that transition of going into the junior high and being in those higher grades and having the options for different electives.
And I always thought junior high was the transition to go to high school, and that's what junior high was supposed to be.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, how many school board meetings have you been to, in what time period?
I have been to, let's see, I've been to 3 this year. I was at 5 last year. I want to say there's been, except for this year, there's been never less than 5 per year since I lived at Magnolia.
How often are they held?
Once a month.
Once a month.
And one of our questions, general questions, was what are the top 3 issues facing MISD? And one of yours was the education program. And the question I have is, you listed teacher retention. Do you have a lot of turnover?
We have way too much turnover.
Really?
My daughters, as sophomores, went through 3 English teachers before Christmas break.
Wow.
Being involved with band, we've had 5 to 6 different directors in the past 4 years.
My
Yes,
goodness,
it's
once a year.
What,
What do you think causes that?
I think that there is a big difference in appreciation from the individual school and the administration at the individual school. I also think that Magnolia high schools have become a stepping stone for teachers. And so when they figure out that they're not generally being appreciated by administrators, they kind of start looking outside their realm. And kind of the whole grass is greener on the other side, and move to districts that are paying more, have more opportunity for growth, what have you.
So how would you change that?
At Magnolia West, we do teacher luncheons once a quarter, and it's all parent sponsored. I would suggest doing that once a month. Parents need to step up and be involved, and that's one thing that the school lacks, is parent involvement.
One quick question. You mentioned that you're very active in the band and all that, and you raise money on the outside. Was that from parents, or was that from businesses and other groups?
That was businesses. We actually, we started things such as silent auction, where I actually reached out to members of the community and got gift cards donated, trips donated, what have you. And we would actually silent auction them off. And that's where the majority of our scholarship money comes from.
Very good.
so it's strictly scholarship money though?
What we're doing for band, yes, is strictly scholarship.
Okay.
On the budget, what are the top 3 areas for the budget for this school district needs to be adjusted? You said the first one was M&O, maintenance and operations. Second highest after instruction. How much lower do you think it needs to be, say, percent-wise?
I mean, you're not talking anything drastic. I'm thinking 2 to 5%. It's nothing too drastic.
Okay. And leadership needs to be reduced. Are you saying in quantity, or are you saying in amount that they're getting paid, or both? You do list a superintendent, assistant superintendent,
Assistant superintendent.
and all directors. What's the director in the school?
So you actually have, within the district, you have either your superintendent, your superintendent. You also have a fine arts director, an athletic director. You have a security director. you have a bunch of different directors overseeing different things. But within the school itself, you have the principal, the associate principal, and then you have 4 assistant principals on top of 2 counselors, 2 guidance counselors, 3 school psychologists, a school therapist.
And they're being paid less than the teachers, right?
No.
No.
Do you know what the ratio is for administrative versus teacher? You know what I'm saying? So the state average is 1.3
Mhm.
teachers to every administrator.
Well, support staff.
Oh, support staff.
Included,
Exactly.
yeah.
I don't. I'm trying to figure it out very quickly. I know it's very high.
It's amazing.
Data processing, in the third part of that, since I have a little time, data processing services. You said, why are we outsourcing this? Keep it in-house and keep costs down. Some would say outsourcing keeps the cost down.
Mhm. Not when you're paying people to do it in-house and outsourcing too.
Oh, really? Okay. So they're doing both.
They're doing both.
Sounds like the accounting. All right. Bill.
Okay, of all of the current school board members, who's your favorite? Who's doing the best job? Who's the one you want to model your career path after?
Sonia Abel.
Okay, and why her?
She is very involved, not with just her own child. She spends a lot of time across the board with different groups. She takes the time to go read to elementary school students. She's actively involved with church. I actually do know her personally from church. Very calm and level-headed. And I actually give her a lot of respect for that.
Okay, well, that's all good answers. And so why did you run for this particular position on the school board? Because there's more than one open, right?
There is. There's really not a reason for me choosing this one particular position. In all honesty, I think it kind of spoke to me just to go for this position one.
Start with
Right.
Okay, James.
Now, what is do you know the level of education the superintendent has? Is it a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate?
He has a doctorate.
And what is the level of education that you've attained?
I have some college.
All right, this is why I asked. Well, let me ask something first. In the school board meetings that you've been to, and you've been to quite a few, do you notice that the school board members are challenging the superintendent on fund issues and that sort of thing? So that's the basis of my question. So here you have a man with a good bit of experience, high degree of education, and you're a school board member. Now, the school board are the elected officials. They're the ones with the state legal authority, responsibility, and power. And if there's any money being spent in that school district or misspent, the people that have to answer for that is not the superintendent, it's the school board. So my question is, when you look at the fact that you have a superintendent that I'm pretty sure is used to getting his way, how will you handle the fact that if you challenge him, the rest of the school board is going to look at you and say, do you have a doctorate? Have you been in all, have you had this much experience? Aren't you just some little old mom from home? Who are you to tell the superintendent what to do? So how are you going to handle that dynamic?
I manage projects that literally are $1.9 billion every single day. I manage Fortune 5 companies every single day. Nobody can beat me because of my education. Sometimes it's not always so great to have that college smart. You also gotta have common sense.
Now, of course, that means, depending on who else gets elected, you might be one of the few people that actually feel like the school administration answers to you. That's not going to make you very popular. Is that going to be a problem? You have kids in the school, right?
Right.
And they may come up with a nickname for you at the school. And your kids find out, and they come home and say, Mom, they call you Attila the Hun, or something like
They
that.
already call me that anyway, so I'm good with that. No, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me. My kids are strong and independent thinkers, and you know, being on the band booster board as long as I have been, things have been said, and I've been called names, and my kids kind of look at them and laugh it off.
So you're okay with basically moving the board, certainly yourself, to take a supervisory and at times antagonistic position
Absolutely.
with administration?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you. Bob?
In your times with the school board meetings, and I have not attended any of yours, I have attended ISDs, but are the school board meetings totally run by the superintendent?
They are not.
Does the board go along with everything the superintendent says?
They do not.
They do not. So they do question him.
I think that they question him, but I don't think it's to the degree that it should be.
During the time that's available for the public to speak, most of them will not answer anything that's brought up. Are they is the current board or the administration actually listening to the people, and does anything get done after the response from the public is brought forward?
I think it is. I think sometimes, depending on what it is, sometimes the board will address it right then and there, and sometimes they say we have to take it back and have a discussion on it. And I think some items move forward.
There was a big issue not too long ago about school assets being used in political events. Do you think that's appropriate?
No.
Do you know if there's a policy within the school district for if I wanted to rent a school van, or if I wanted to store my equipment in the school? Is there a policy that would allow me to do that?
No, there is not.
Do you think there should be?
No, I do not.
Do you think that anybody should be able to use the school facilities for their personal gain at any time?
No. Absolutely not.
It seems to be at odds with, the last two answers seem to be at odds with one another. Could you explain that?
I don't feel that members who are not school board, well, no, even then, vehicles, buildings, what have you, are owned by the district. They are not for somebody's personal use or political gain.
It sounds like a policy,
It is a policy.
but you said you're against policies.
No, I'm for the policy that no one else should be able to use them except for school personnel.
Does that include the superintendent if he's doing something with somebody that's not school person?
If it is not in the school interest, a school activity, no, you should not be able to.
Okay, now as taxpayers within the county, it doesn't matter if I live within the school district, we're still paying county taxes, and that does come back over to y'all. If the facility, if a nonprofit wanted to use the facility, is there a policy set up for nonprofits to be able to use school facilities
Yes,
with payment?
with payment.
In our questionnaire,
We got about 15 minutes.
in our questionnaire in the budget, one of the questions was, will you vote to limit budget increases to a factor based on population growth and inflation? Explain. Your answer was no. It hasn't worked in other states or schools. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Traditionally looking at, so I came from Cy Fair School District, perfect example. currently, they're looking at proposing some insane bond, right? Trying to get it passed. When you're incurring more debt, even though you're growing, your debt is going to continue to grow. I am all opposed to anything that's going to raise our tax money, period. There has to be another way for our school district to grow without incurring additional bond debt. Plain and simple. It shouldn't take a 30-year bond that my grandkids' kids are going to be paying on to grow a district. Does that answer?
Yeah. The amount of money that MSID has in their bank account for contingent doesn't matter simply because it won't be enough. Explain a little bit of that, because the question was, how much money does MISD have in their bank account for contingencies? So, and how much is required, is the statutory requirement?
So I don't know how much money Magnolia has in their bank account currently, but I know that it won't be enough because of the whole bond issue. If we're looking at building another school, which we are going to be potentially going 6A next year, we're going to have that additional third high school. That's a bond. Well, contingency is, depending on the district, anywhere between 5 and 8% in their bank account. 5 to 8% of what taxpayers are putting in does not build another high school.
Okay.
With that, there's currently a bond being projected out there for another school district, just for renovation of a high school at $146 million. That same school district just built a brand new high school for $146 million. Do you think that's an outrageous amount to spend for a high school?
To renovate, absolutely.
And how about for a brand new facility?
That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's inflation at its best. That's people.
Have you ever built a school? How do you know that's, what do you base your answer on?
Coming from Sci-Fair, they built high schools all the time. They're one of the quickest growing districts within the state. If you go back and look historically at their records of the cost of high schools, big 2-story gorgeous high schools, not 146 million.
But they'll tell you the costs increase that much every year. And if you don't build it now, it's gonna be that
Yeah.
much more in 5.
Like 10 years.
Yeah,
It's true.
that's the story there.
And that was me. Oh, he took over.
He took over.
And you took over.
Introduce a whole new.
So we'll give you some back. You can have some of mine.
I'll go again.
Take away from Bob.
You already had mine.
Go ahead.
No.
Dill.
Okay. Proper balance between local and state funding. There were a couple of questions we had on that. And one of your answers said local funding coming from taxes, et cetera, should be lowered. If you understand how the school funding mechanisms are set up at the state level, so how would you accomplish that? Because lowering local contributions means that the school board has to either lower the appraisals or lower the tax rate. That's the only way to lower the local contribution.
Mm-hmm. The state needs to step up. They dropped their spending and their contribution to school districts drastically.
And you know why, right?
Yes, I do. But at the same time, if we're taking our tax dollars and they're going to the county, and the county's sending it to the state, and the state's using them for other things, and not putting forth what they really should be putting towards school districts, there's a breakdown. And I know currently there is a House bill that is to increase that spending to the school districts. And I'm hoping that goes through. But they have drastically each year, slowly but surely, dwindled down.
So let's say that House bill goes through, the state comes through. Let's be generous. They doubled what they gave Magnolia last year. Are you going to cut in half what you took from the locals through property taxes? And how are you going to achieve that?
I am all for not raising taxes. If we can accomplish as we grow without raising our tax rates, yay. But I am not for raising taxes.
Okay, we're not talking about raising. You actually said local funding coming from taxes should be lower.
Yes,
So.
people are being
you're
taxed
talking
out of
about-
their homes.
So if the school district is not in control of the appraisal board, the only mechanism the school district itself has is lower the tax rate. So you are actively encouraging lower tax rates.
Yes,
And that's how you would vote or whatever, or encourage. Okay. Do I still have a couple minutes? Or a couple seconds?
Couple.
Seconds.
When do you want to save it for next go around?
Yes, I will do it in this go around. Okay, James. Or let Larry have the glasses.
You talked about, I was going to challenge you on one thing you were talking about, which was that the state drastically reduced their funding. I'm looking at the 2018-19 general fund budget. The state program revenues was $39.8 million. And then in the 2011-12, 8 years ago, or 7, it was 38.5. So we're really only talking about a $1 million. That gone down, is going up $1 million. When you say they've drastically cut, now admittedly your local has gone from 40 million to 62. But they haven't really cut, have they? I mean, you're getting $1 million more than you did 7 years ago. So how has the state cut the money? In what way has their money been reduced? Because it doesn't look like it.
I'm going to explain it in the way I explained it to my husband today.
Sure.
You have a gallon of milk. A gallon of milk used to be 99 cents. It's now $3 a gallon. Used to be 99 cents could get you a gallon of milk. Now 99 cents cannot get you a gallon of milk. When you have the cost of living inflation, but no adjustment on what you're bringing home, it doesn't balance out. You have to grow the cost of living. So it's the same thing as the school district or the state. If they're not changing what they're contributing, so that one difference in $1 million over a period of how long? 7 years?
Yeah.
It's $1 million.
Sure, you're saying they haven't reduced it, they just haven't increased it enough.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
So while we're on funding, and you're talking about people getting taxed out of their houses, the only way they get taxed out of their houses is because of property taxes. There was a bill put forward during the last legislative session, hopefully in this one, I haven't even looked, to do away with property taxes and to increase the sales taxes. Do you think that's a wise move or not?
I think that the last I saw, there was a bill that was put forth to limit the increase on property taxes to where they could only increase it 1% to 2% per year. I'm all for when the appraisal district comes in and appraises, say a mobile home. When the appraisal goes up instead of down, mobile homes don't appreciate in value, they decrease in value. So explain to me where that inflation is on a mobile home and why my property taxes are going up, right? My property value is staying the same. My house is going up. I don't fully agree with raising sales taxes. I can see it to a certain degree. But I know with property values, as our district grows, as our county grows, we're obviously going to see an increase in those just because of additional businesses coming in, additional homes being built, what have you. Does it make it right? No.
So we're back to servitude to the government, which when we got our independence from England, one of the things that we did was to get away from the king owning all of the property. We're back to the same position now, where the king, the government, owns everything that we have. So did we really win our independence?
No, not really.
We know that we need taxes.
But you gotta limit those taxes.
You have to limit the taxes, granted, but you also have to limit some of the other things that we've talked about, or you've talked about earlier. During the period of time in that seven years, we've seen an increase in administration, which is taking the money back away from where it was supposed to go anyway. Do you feel that a business, a privately owned business or a corporation can operate under the same guidelines that the school districts are operating as far as administration and teachers?
I think it's great if you want a lot of cheese and not enough Indians.
Right? Can you do that with a private company?
No, I mean, I don't think it's wise for anybody to do it that way.
So school districts should be run
More like a business.
more like a business rather than,
Absolutely.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
We've got time for one or two more.
Just just more information thing. You were talking about the Magnolia School has the constables in there all the time, and that's good for security, and you'd like to see the doors have a thing on them. Are you aware of Steve Toth, our representative's bill that is trying to get it all coordinated together? Good. That's all I got.
Okay. You mentioned in here that you were working with Representative Caligiuri to dispose of the SWOT test. Was that over in South
It was.
Okay. Bill Caligiuri?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good friend, old friend. So did you guys have any luck?
We
on
did
that
not.
At all?
None.
Was there anybody that was helping y'all in the legislature at all?
He was ready to put forth a bill to dissolve the STAR test, but the bill did not pass.
Okay. Have you tried that again at all? Maybe Toth?
Maybe, hopefully,
Yeah,
would be nice.
okay. Yeah, that's all I got. We're at 6:20, and why don't we go ahead and we'll do your closing, up to 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Anything particular you want in the closing?
Just whatever you want to say to close out.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for being with me today. I appreciate it. I would like to say some of the things that I did not cover in the questionnaire were STAR testing. I am very opposed to STAR testing. I think it takes away the educational rights of our children. Our kids are taught to test, and that's a problem. We need to go back to old school values of our kids learning and our teachers getting to teach for the love of teaching. Kids are being cheated by all the tests. DCA, District Common Assessment, regular test every day, amount of projects they have every single day, STAR tests, SAT, ACT, TSI, you name it. They are being taught to test. I firmly believe that STAR testing needs to go. Another thing that I would like to mention is that, and I think you brought it up best, school should be run like a business. There are Fortune 100 companies that work just fine, making millions of dollars a year without having 15 levels of leadership. Maybe if school districts took on more of the business plan, they could see a lot of success. So, in closing, that's it, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.